My elder sister died in childbirth. Father couldn't bear to abandon the alliance with the Marquis household. My stepmother couldn't let go of my sister's two children. So I was forced to drink the red flower potion and thrust into the Marquis household as a secondary wife. My husband showed no affection. My mother-in-law harbored no warmth. My only solace lay in the two children I raised single-handedly. Yet my eldest daughter grew as delicate as a chrysanthemum. Her future and prospects left entirely to me to fight and seize. My sons, though respectful and dutiful, required my utmost effort to secure the heir's position that seemed within their grasp. For their futures, I exhausted myself, making enemies on all sides. Despised by my husband, loathed by my mother-in-law, even outsiders cursed me as a poisonous woman. I thought my daughter would marry into a noble house. My son would rule the entire marquisate. My suffering would finally yield sweetness. Yet in my death throes, my own children forced poison down my throat. My son said, "You're nothing but a poisonous woman and worthy to be my mother." My daughter watched coldly. "Blame your own stupidity for willingly becoming a dog we could use." Consumed by rage, I drew my sword and plunged into the underworld alongside these two ungrateful wretches, reborn into this life. If they wish to play the part of the indifferent and the dutiful brother before others, I shall accompany them in a performance of utter loss and death with eyes wide open. Madame risked her life to save the young mistress. Yet not only did the young mistress refuse to speak for her, she even used the marquisate's authority to drop the matter. Does the young mistress fear this will break Madame's heart? Enemies should be reconciled, not deepened. Why fight over momentary triumphs? A noble lady must possess noble bearing. Mother will surely understand I act only for her good. Old Nanny, who has served as a servant her entire life, how could she possibly grasp the perspective of a noble lady? The oil lamp swayed, casting flickering light upon the golden hooks adorning the canopy above. It was only through the conversation between the loyal old Nanny Who and my foster daughter, Lee Kingroo, that I realized I had been reborn. Reborn on the very day of the Countess's birthday banquet. On this day in my past life, I had attended the feast with dignity, accompanied by the two children I'd raised as my own. Yet after 3 rounds of wine, as the intoxication began to lift, I overheard my adopted son, Lee Jinsey, delivering a righteous and impassioned speech before the guests, separated only by the lush camphor trees. Though I am the legitimate heir, I share a deep bond with my second brother. I have no desire for the position of heir apparent. It is only mother, ever anxious and eager to meddle in everything, who inevitably becomes overly calculating. But as sons of the Lee family, we prioritize brotherly harmony over ambition. Should the situation demand it, I would defy mother's will, endure public condemnation, and kneel until my legs break all to urge her to prioritize the greater good and fulfill my younger brother's ambition to single-handedly uphold the marquisate's honor. All praised Lee Jinsey's noble virtue. Yet separated by a mere tree, I was branded as a power-hungry, unprincipled villain. Filled with rage and sorrow, I heard Song Nanny's words of comfort. The young master is only 15. At that headstrong age, he's easily swayed by persuasion and temptation, speaking without deep thought. His words shouldn't be taken seriously. Time will tell. He'll come to understand that only the mistress truly has his best interests at heart. The eldest miss is still waiting in the garden for you to arrange her marriage. Unwilling to publicly shatter my son's dignity, and with my daughter's marriage urgently hanging in the balance at the mercy of my mother-in-law, I resolved to address the matter gently upon returning home. Accompanied by Song, the wet nurse from my elder sister's dowry, I made my way to the garden. Yet from afar, I spotted Lee Kingroo engaged in a heated argument. Hurrying over, I didn't even wait to hear the cause before witnessing Shen Shiyu, the daughter of the Duke's household, seized the moment when Lee Kingroo turned her back. With vicious force, she shoved Kingroo hard from behind. when I married into the Marquis household as a second wife. The two infants crying for milk hadn't even left the postpartum confinement period. I raised them with my own hands and feet until now. Though not born from my womb, they were no different from my own flesh and blood. Seeing Lee Kingru in danger, I didn't pause to think. I lunged forward and shoved Kingru out of harm's way, only to be pushed into the lake by Shen Qiu. It was the dead of winter, and the lake water was bone-chillingly cold. Struggling desperately in the water, I was dragged downward by my heavy robes. Hoping for the wet nurse's rescue, I held on until I choked on water and lost consciousness. In my past life, Lee Kingru also took advantage of my unconsciousness to save face before others. Using her status as the eldest daughter of the Marquis household and my daughter's name, she neither held the Marquis household accountable for their inadequate rescue efforts, nor confronted Shen Qiu, who had nearly cost me my life. Instead, she shed crocodile tears for me while declaring to the crowd, "I am sure Miss Shen didn't mean any harm. She's already terrified. As the kindest mother, how could I bear to blame her further? Endless retaliation brings no resolution. Why not step back and embrace boundless horizons? If mother must blame someone, blame my own inadequacy." From that day on, the siblings' reputations spread far and wide. One, as serene as a chrysanthemum, was cherished by the eldest son of the Duke's household. The other, exemplifying brotherly devotion and noble character, won the favor of Princess Mingqiang. Clearly, their reputations had secured their futures. Yet they neither fought nor competed, watching helplessly as their stepmother schemed to seize their bright futures for her own children. I could not swallow that bitter humiliation, so I turned their own tactics against them, fought fiercely, and ultimately crushed Song Lianer and her two children. I secured splendid futures and advantageous marriages for my own offspring. Yet my ruthless cruelty earned me my husband's loathing, my mother-in-law's hatred, and the scorn of all who knew me. But what did it matter? My daughter married into a noble house. My son held sway over the entire marquisate. In the end, I became the most revered matriarch in the capital. But on my 50th birthday, I suddenly coughed up blood and fell ill. My son approached, holding a bowl of medicine. Mistaking it for filial devotion, I drained it in one gulp. But as I handed back the empty bowl, I met his icy, mocking smile. "Get out, broken heart. I secured this poison for you. Its potency is fierce, with no cure. Most crucially, it won't kill you swiftly. I'll let you writhe in agony until your very soul shatters before you breathe your last. That is the fate I've chosen for you. You, a mere illegitimate daughter, trampled over my mother's corpse to seize the marquisate's wealth. For years it was your greed, a poisonous woman unworthy of being my mother, who humiliated me for so long. Today is the day you pay your debt." The medicine bowl crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces in utter disarray, a perfect reflection of my own chaotic life. My daughter watched coldly, her voice haughty. "You never considered why you ended up despised by all. It's simply that we siblings, having secured splendid futures, remembered our maternal grandmother's instructions to ensure you lived no good life. Blame your own foolishness, willingly becoming a dog for us to use." The poison took effect, tearing at my heart and guts with agony. I writhed on the bed, clutching my stomach in pain. Yet my sister and brother stood above me, watching my misery with triumphant laughter before turning and leaving. My life had been wasted, and my hatred burned fiercely. I drew the dagger hidden beneath my pillow for self-defense. Seizing the moment when they weren't looking, I stabbed each one through the back, killing those two heartless bastards. But the agony was unbearable. Gathering my last breath, I poisoned the well water of the Marquis' mansion. After driving away the loyal servants who protected their master, I drank the poison and took my own life, filled with resentment. After death, I witnessed the downfall of everyone in the Marquis' mansion. That high-ranking family, corrosive to the bone, devoured my entire life. I made them pay with their lives. Reborn into this life that my gaze fell upon Lee Chingra's indifferent face. If these siblings wished to play the part of the reserved and the dutiful, I would accompany them in a performance of utter loss and death with eyes wide open. Mother, you're awake. Lee Kingra rushed over with feigned concern. Her pretense of worry couldn't hide the cold glint in her eyes. My gaze darkened. Smack! A vicious slap landed on her face. Lee Chingra's fair cheek instantly swelled and reddened. She stared at me in utter bewilderment. Mother, why did you strike me? Smack! The words barely left her lips when, fueled by hatred from both past and present lives, I raised my hand again, delivering another blow to the other side of her face. My voice was cold and sharp. So you don't even know where you went wrong? Lee Kingra clutched her cheek, forcing down her resentment as she lowered her eyes. Her eyes were red, and she spoke in a choked, aggrieved voice. Your daughter does not know where she has erred. I beg Mother to enlighten me. In the past, seeing her like this forcing back her grievances, tears welling in her eyes would have broken my heart. I could never have held a grudge. But today I'll kneel. The word fell from my lips, and Lee Kingra cried out in shame and fury. Mother, a smack! Another slap landed. Lee Kingra, her defenses shattered, cried out, Why? To defy your mother is to be unfilial. With all my strength, I roared and struck her again, sending her hairpins flying and leaving her utterly stunned. The hatred from my past life found no outlet in this one. After unleashing this uncontrollable barrage of slaps, the pent-up fury in my chest finally began to dissipate. When Lee Kingra met my bloodshot eyes, fear finally gripped her. Biting back the humiliation and fury at her lips, she reluctantly knelt. Just entering, Song Nanny gasped at the sight, rushing forward to pull Lee Kingra up while urgently shouting, Quick, fetch the doctor. The mistress has been unconscious for 4 hours, her fever still raging. She must be delirious from illness. Young Miss is noble. She's never been punished by kneeling. Rise at once. Smack! No sooner had Nanny Song finished speaking than she too received an equal slap from me. The pain made my palm go numb, yet I felt an unprecedented sense of exhilaration and vindication. Staring at her as she clutched her face in stunned silence, I said, one word at a time, Nanny Song has grown increasingly insolent, daring to defy even my orders. Such a stubborn servant is beyond my means to keep. Attendance! Song Ma'am is stubborn and well-connected far beyond what a lowly daughter like me can handle. Send her back to the Zhao household. Tell my legitimate mother, Zhao Fenghua no longer wants her. Nanny Song's face paled, and she knelt with a thud. Mistress, spare my life. This old servant has followed you for years, loyal to the death, without a single thought of betrayal. I only feared your harsh punishment might damage our mother-daughter bond. Never did I intend to turn against you. Please see clearly, mistress. In my past life, I would have believed these words. But having died once, I knew full well that this confidant of my elder sister, years after her death, still secretly incited her to children. They never forgot their birth mother's kindness and harbored a deep, seething hatred for me, their stepmother who sought only wealth and status. My hatred had no room for such a smiling tiger. I roared again, drag her away. Lee Chingra's body trembled, and just as she opened her mouth to plead, meeting my utterly cold gaze, her voice instantly died away. Ma, my trusted confidant, wasted no time. She ordered servants to gag Song Ma, bound her tightly, and sent her back to the Zhao household through the back gate. Useless pawns always meet their end discarded. Whether Song Nanny met her end by strangulation or was sold off, her fate would be grim. In my past life, had she not schemed behind the scenes, relaying messages for my stepmother, how could those doing great children have come to hate me so deeply? With Song Nanny, their mastermind gone, the siblings became fish on the chopping block, helpless against their fate. Even Lee Kingra, usually as serene as a chrysanthemum, paled visibly. Clutching her handkerchief tightly, she watched helplessly as Song Nanny was dragged toward her doom. If mother harbors resentment, take it out on her son. Why torment the matron and my elder sister? Li Jinzi, having received Song's message, stormed into the mansion and shouted at me in indignation. He wore a golden crown and jade sash, every piece of his attire a meticulously chosen treasure I had prepared. With the grace of a jade prince, he was hailed as the noble scion of a distinguished family. Yet who could have imagined that beneath this gilded exterior lay a heart rotten with malice? Recalling the ruthlessness with which he had sent me to my death in my past life, I forced myself upright, clutching Hu Mam's hand. Step by step, meeting his gaze, I advanced before him. Just as he expected me to explain myself in my usual meek tone, I straightened my back and unleashed a torrent of resentment. Mother always has her reasons, but it is I who refuse to see brothers turn against each other, to see siblings slaughter one another. Couldn't she have shown greater magnanimity regarding the position of crown prince? Couldn't she have sacrificed her ambition for the peace of our entire family? Smack! His righteous speech was cut short. Before I struck him with both hands, all my strength behind each blow, leaving him staring in shock. You dare strike me. Another sharp slap sent him reeling. You keep saying you without even calling me mother. You have no manners. I'll beat you to death. Before he could speak, I pointed at his nose and shouted, Mother lies gravely ill in bed, suffering this great calamity. As her son, you've offered not a single word of concern. Instead, you burst in to coldly rebuke her, abandoning even the most basic courtesy of greeting her. You're unworthy of being called her son. How could you not deserve this? Li Jinzi's pupils flinched. I had always been gentle with him, never imposing rules or etiquette. He had come to believe he was my sole support, free to act as he pleased before me. Standing up for Song Nanny, I made him regret it bitterly. Get out, kneel in the courtyard, and reflect on your transgressions. Li Jinzi gasped in shock. You order me to kneel in the courtyard? As the legitimate heir of the Marquis' household, being punished to kneel in the courtyard of the principal wife. If this spreads, what will become of my reputation and future prospects? Smack! Another slap. I struck with such force, I staggered backward, slumped in the armchair, gasping for breath. I declared, you've always claimed to be indifferent to fame and fortune. Why then do you care so much about such trivial things? Such hypocrisy. If I were the Marquis, I wouldn't even give you the title. I'd throw it to the pigs on the estate. These words sent Li Jinzi into a rage of shame and anger. You're only resentful because I publicly vowed to relinquish the position of heir apparent. You're holding a grudge against me and forcing me to submit through such underhanded means. I will not yield. I'm going to seek justice from father now. With that, he clutched his swollen face and stormed out of my courtyard. Li Qingru, standing nearby, lowered her eyes, a faint smirk playing at the corners of her lips. She believed her father's reinforcements had arrived to support her. How naive. I would show her what it meant to weave her own cocoon. Zhao Feng Hua, what do you hope to achieve by taking your anger out on the child? Soon after, Marquis Li Shao strode in, clad in a dark blue robe. Following behind him was Li Jinzi, his eyes betraying an unmistakable smirk. When Li Shao's gaze met my pale face feverish from the fall into the water his breath caught, he shifted his eyes away, unable to meet mine. He settled gracefully into the armchair, waiting for my explanation. That was just how he was. He could see my distress and plight, yet he always stood aloof, pretending not to notice. In my past life, I sought only my children's success, dismissing marital affection as trivial. I never once offered him an explanation. Little did I know that my own children would secretly slander me, painting me as despicable and loathsome. This lifetime, meeting Li Shao's displeased gaze, I offered a light chuckle, about to speak. But Li Qingru, kneeling before the bed and weeping like rain, Sobbed out first. Mother has harmed her body and feels wronged. Venting a little is only natural. As her children, we should fulfill our filial duty. A little physical suffering matters not. Father, do not blame us. Her words were subtle yet skillful. She had quietly pinned the label of a cruel parent upon me, while simultaneously portraying herself as kind and dutiful, winning the hearts of all. In my past life, it was precisely this kind of subtle, cutting criticism that repeatedly left me wounded. This time, I rose slowly, under the fixed stares of father and sons. I drew the disciplinary ruler. Meeting the trembling in Li Qingru's pupils, it cracked down. The blow sent blood trickling from Li Qingru's mouth, her face swelling like a steamed bun. She finally crumbled beneath her noblewoman's facade, wailing aloud as she screamed at me. Has mother lost her mind? Why this torment? Li Jinzi lunged forward, shielding his elder sister behind him, gnashing his teeth at me. Have you finally lost all pretense, mother? Because we refuse to be your pawns in power struggles, you discard even 15 years of mother-son affection? Oh, disrespect to the mistress of the house. Utterly foolish. Smack! My hand raised the ruler, striking Li Jinzi squarely across the mouth, leaving him with a swollen mouth, unable to speak. Li Xiao sprang to his feet, shielding his children. Pointing his finger at my nose, he bellowed, if they truly aren't your own flesh and blood, how dare you act this way before this marquis? Who knows what else you've taught my children behind my back? I raised the ruler. He gasped in shock. You dare strike this marquis? Smack! My ruler struck the teacup. Teacup scattered across the table crashed to the floor. Splashing hot tea hit Li Xiao's feet. He hopped in pain, pointing at me, ready to rage about my lack of feminine virtue. I struck first, roaring with the fury of past and present lives. As the legitimate daughter of this marquisate, you lack the bearing befitting a noble lady. When humiliated, you cowardly swallow your grievances to avoid conflict, bringing shame upon our house, a reputation for weakness and vulnerability. Now this vast marquisate, like her broken spirit, lies at the mercy of others, crushed and trampled. Do you deserve a beating? Li Xiao, with his sanctimonious demeanor, valued face above all else. Hearing this, he shot Li Qingru a silent, piercing glare. Li Qingru flinched. I pointed my finger at Li Qingru's forehead, seething. As a daughter, you watched your mother drown trying to save you. You neither jumped in to rescue her with genuine devotion nor fought for justice with filial devotion, abandoning her life to build your own reputation. What hope can your father and I have in such an unfilial creature? Shouldn't she be punished? Li Xiao was rendered speechless. Li Qingru trembled all over, her swollen lips unable to form words. I let out a cold laugh and continued. I lay gravely ill as the eldest legitimate daughter of the Marquis's household. You should have summoned physicians, administered medicine, and disciplined the servants fulfilling your duty as the eldest daughter. Yet you, concerned only that your robes were damp, retreated to your quarters to change, leaving the household in utter chaos. Such a selfish, self-serving creature has utterly squandered my years of careful nurturing and education, forsaking the dignity and magnanimity expected of a noble lady. How could you not deserve punishment? With each word I spoke, Li Qingru, kneeling on the ground, paled further. By now, she was bloodless, swaying precariously. She could never have imagined that I, who cherished her more than my own life, would speak of her so harshly before her revered father. I poured my heart and soul into her, always putting her first. Yet she resented and hated me. Her father was selfish and indifferent, favoring the children of concubine Som over her by threefold. Yet she revered and respected him, never uttering a word of resentment. Such a treacherous ingrate, who elevated others while trampling her down. I longed to tear her flesh from her bones. Li Qingru knelt and crawled, sobbing, to Li Xiao's feet, whimpering and trying to make excuses. Li Xiao, seeing her utterly disfigured and pitiful state, ultimately couldn't bring himself to be cruel. Just as he was about to speak, I cut him off with vicious words. Being punished with kneeling and slaps in my courtyard is a private family matter. As long as you watch your words and actions, it's no great harm. But your dear little brother, as thick as a log, went and blabbed it to your father, making it common knowledge. Li Jinzi's body trembled, and he suddenly lifted his gaze. What met his eyes was my cold sneer. By mother's sick, did she ever receive your care or greetings? A 15-year-old boy barges into the inner courtyard. Does he hold any regard for manners or propriety? Without rules or restraint, lacking in kindness or filial piety, how can he be worthy of being the carefully raised legitimate son of the Marquis' household? Was I wrong to strike you? Li Jinzi lifted his gaze and met his father's eyes. In his father's look of disappointment, he knew he had finally shot himself in the foot. The brotherly harmony persona he'd cultivated for years, the esteem he'd earned from his father, all vanished without a trace after today. He looked at me, his lips trembling, staring for a long moment. The words, "Why did mother have to ruin me?" never left his lips. I turned my gaze to Li Qingru, who stood frozen like a statue, and said coldly, "The good reputation and noble demeanor I painstakingly cultivated for you, I fear they will be utterly ruined after today. If blame must be placed, blame your dear little brother, who is as stupid as a pig." Li Qingru staggered and fell flat on her backside. Reputation meant everything to her dot, and now it was ruined. Her painstaking efforts dissolved into nothingness. Unable to bear it, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Nanny, who reacted swiftly, hurriedly carried her back to the courtyard. Li Xiao softened his expression and attempted to smooth things over. "Things have come to this, and you have indeed suffered wrong. I'll send some restorative tonics shortly. You must take good care of yourself. Our children are young and lack propriety. It falls to you to exert greater effort and discipline them strictly. The family honor and prestige of our Hu mansion must not be ruined by them. Generations of noble lineage, a family of high rank, yet they place all their future and prospects on the shoulders of a single, frail woman like me. Have all the men died, or are the rest of the Marquis household useless fools?" Unmoved, I turned and presented the house keys and ledgers I had prepared long ago. I have poured my heart and soul into raising these two children for years, only for them to become knives stabbing at my heart. 15 years as husband and wife, yet not a single day did I receive your trust or protection. I am utterly exhausted, compounded by this fall into the water, which has damaged my lungs and heart. I fear I am no longer capable of bearing the burdens of this household. Your lordship, take these with you." His sole moment of weakness before me met only an ungrateful coldness. Li Xiao's face instantly turned as frosty as ice, his voice icy. "Jiao Feng Hua, since you insist on this, refusing you would only make it seem my marquisate cannot function without you. Attendants, deliver the ledgers and keys to the concubine's quarters. She has always been docile and considerate. She would never defy this marquis." Every word was spoken with me in mind. He thought he was using the concubine to warn and intimidate me. But not only did I not care, I couldn't wait to stay out of it. Watching with glee as concubine's song, emboldened by her master's favor, went after that pair of ungrateful siblings. A dog-eat-dog spectacle, surely. It would be quite a show. Hu Lao Niang knew I never spoke without reason. She guessed that after pouring my heart out for years, my heart had finally grown cold today, causing me to suddenly turn against her. Knowing full well that Li Jinzi had gone to the Marquis to demand Li Qingru's ruin, I remained silent. She understood my intentions. Along the way, as the servants carried Li Qingru to the courtyard, Hu Ma deliberately exposed Li Qingru's swollen, bruised face. Passing by the gawking Song concubine and her daughter, she wailed dramatically, "Quick, fetch a doctor. The eldest miss mustn't be disfigured." Song concubine had always been at odds with me, yet, relying on her status as the niece of the matriarch's family, she enjoyed preferential treatment everywhere. Her son, Li Shenzi, secretly competed with Li Jinzi. Her daughter, Li Wanyu, constantly vied with Li King Ryu for superiority. This blatant opportunity was handed to her on a silver platter, and naturally, she spared no effort in spreading the news far and wide. Within 3 days, every tea house in the capital was abuzz with the scandal. Li King Ryu, seeking fame and reputation, had exploited her mother's life to showcase her own supposed virtue, only to be punished by her disillusioned mother with a beating that left her face disfigured. I was never favored by my mother-in-law, had fallen out with the Marquis, and had grown estranged from my own children. Now, even the noble daughter I had painstakingly raised had her reputation utterly ruined by her. Madame Song was overjoyed. Under the guise of visiting me, she strutted about my courtyard, acting like the mistress of the house and bossing the servants around. I pretended not to notice. I let her sit beside me, her face beaming with satisfaction as she said, "Poor mistress, exhausting herself for another's child, only to fall ill in bed, lonely and pitiful. If I'd known this would happen, I should have just borne to children myself." She gasped, covering her mouth with a handkerchief, looking as though she'd said something she shouldn't have. She spat out, "It's all my fault. I'm too blunt. I forgot that when you entered this household as a second wife, your parents had you drink red flower decoction. You'll never bear your own child." Poor thing, unable to bear her own children, nor raise others properly. Even the household management has been handed over. Within these deep courtyards, madam, you must take care of yourself. Don't wait until your life fades away to regret your choices. As she doubled over laughing, I asked with a forced smile, "Finished?" Her expression froze a smack. My ruler struck her face hard. She yelped in pain. She lunged to strike me, but I seized her slender neck, pinning her face down onto the tea table. Gazing at her bruised, once beautiful face, I gritted out, "Even if you relinquished stewardship, I remain the matriarch of this marquisate, inscribed in its ancestral registry. What are you, daring to flaunt your petty authority before me? If I let you die in my courtyard today, I can tell the world you disrespected the mistress and perished by your own hand during punishment. At worst, I'll sever ties with the Marquis's household, but you'll lose your one and only life. I know you'll turn around and slander me to your aunt, falsely accusing me of disfiguring you. If I don't retaliate, I'd be the one left feeling wronged." Madame Song trembled like a sieve, her usual arrogance gone. She begged for mercy, her voice quivering. "No, I promise I'll never bother you again. Please let me go." But it was too late. I snatched her hairpin from her hair with lightning speed. Whoosh! It sliced through that bewitching face. Blood spurted out. Song's concubine, hair disheveled and face covered in blood, looked like a demon. I threw her violently to the ground and warned her, "If you ever hurt my children again, if you ever break my heart, I'll make you wish you were dead." Clenching her blood-soaked face, Song's concubine scrambled to her feet. As she fled toward the door, she turned and spat at me. "A defeated phoenix is no better than a chicken. What are you gloating about? I have every means to have you locked away in this courtyard until you die. I'll make sure your children are ruined, their reputations smeared into the mud." With that, she fled at breakneck speed, terrified she might slow down and face my wrath. But I wanted precisely that for her to harbor hatred toward me and take revenge on my children, my very lifeblood. Using others as my weapon, I need only wait in the courtyard to reap the rewards. Why wouldn't I? As I'd anticipated, concubine Song, her face flushed crimson, went to her aunt's chambers, weeping and wailing as she lodged a complaint against me. So much so that when Li Xiao returned from court, still clad in his official robes, the old madam summoned him to her courtyard. The sight of Song Concubine's pitiful state and the old lady's furious rebuke prompted Li Xiao to personally order that I, the venomous woman, be confined to the main courtyard to convalesce. From that day onward, the inner courtyard of the Marquis's residence became Song Concubine's domain. She had clearly learned her lesson well and stopped causing me trouble. Yet every piece of cloth, every trinket, every gown delivered to the manor, she reserved first for her own two children. Only after they had picked their favorites were the leftovers sent to the courtyards of Li Jinzi and Li Qingru. The lady of the house no longer brought the legitimate daughter, Li Qingru, to accompany her to banquets. Instead, it was the secondary daughter, Li Wanyu. The old lady deliberately elevated her status. And since the current dynasty placed little emphasis on distinctions between legitimate and secondary children, Li Wanyu gained favor after attending several banquets. While accompanying the old lady and the Duchess of the Duke's residence for tea, she flattered the Duchess by presenting her with a headband adorned with a dark-patterned, evergreen pine pendant gemstone. Its design was identical to the one left behind by the Duchess's mother, earning it the Duke's residence's favor. Thus, Li Wanyu entered the Dowager's favor. What no one knew was that the headband sent to the Duke's residence in her previous life, under Li Qingru's name, had, in this lifetime, been deliberately revealed to Auntie Song through the servants' mouths. When Li Wanyu returned to the residence, beaming with pride, she happened upon a distraught Li Qingru. She was just like her mother, a fox-like temptress. Overcome with triumph, Li Wanyu boasted, "The old lady praised me for being both beautiful and wise, a rare quality. Grandmother was so pleased she let me choose any jewelry from the treasury. What do you think I picked? The very set of jade inlaid feathers sister Li Qingru has been longing for. I suppose since sister is as indifferent as a chrysanthemum, even disregarding mother's life, she likely cares little for such things too." Li Qingru seethed with frustration, yet she was powerless to speak, swallowing her bitterness like a mute swallowing gall. Finally, she remembered me. Rushing into my courtyard, she saw my pale, bedridden form and froze for a moment. Then, in a soft voice, she asked, "Mother, are you feeling better?" Nanny Hu glanced at her and explained calmly. She caught a chill, and then her heart was broken by the young master and mistress. Her spirit is scattered, and it's difficult for her to get out of bed for now. Hearing this, Li Qingru suddenly knelt before me with a thud. Hu Ma sighed in relief, thinking that after all, she was the child I had raised, and she still cared for me. She believed Li Qingru had come to apologize, filled with guilt and regret. But in the next instant, Li Qingru cried out loudly, "Mother, please gather your strength. Reclaim your stewardship and uphold the dignity of our main courtyard. Your daughter cannot bear to see you trampled by that concubine." Hu Nanyang's expression darkened, and she opened her mouth to speak. But then Li Jinzi entered, his face pale and head bowed. It turned out Song Lianer had paid handsomely for a poem to help her son win first prize at a poetry gathering hosted by a noble. Li Shenji's success brought honor to Li Xiao. Ignoring Li Jinji's presence, Li Xiao proclaimed loudly, "Shenzi studies diligently, seeks knowledge with humility. He truly embodies his father's virtues." Such favoritism had the world speculating that Li Xiao's choice for heir apparent might well fall upon his second son. Li Jinzi grew anxious. The man who had always professed brotherly harmony now stormed into my courtyard, flustered after being taunted by his triumphant younger brother. Yet he put on a righteous air and declared, "I care not for the position of heir, but Consort Song presses me relentlessly, acting as if she were the mistress of the house. I cannot bear to see my mother treated so unfairly." After the two had finished sowing discord, they were expressions of certain victory. I chuckled softly and replied, "After much thought, I believe you two are right. A family thrives when its members are as serene as chrysanthemums and treat each other with brotherly respect. Therefore, I shall follow your example." For the sake of family harmony, I will not contend with the concubine over momentary superiority. As Li Jinzi stood stunned, I stared directly at his hypocrisy and declared, word by word, she has coveted control of the household for half her life. What harm is there in granting it to her? What truly matters is family harmony. Amid Li Qingru's bewilderment, I scorned her hypocrisy and sighed. A matriarch must possess the bearing of a matriarch. Why fight over momentary supremacy? A great family demands the vision of a great family. You should understand I'm doing this for your own good. Struck dumb by their own words, they were momentarily speechless before resorting to desperation. Mother, by stooping so low, are you willing to sacrifice your children's futures? I feigned bewilderment, replying in a hollow voice. Is this not precisely what you two have always desired? Now that I've granted your wish, why do you refuse to accept it? For the blade had turned against them, and they knew the sting of pain. Their fists clenched tightly, their teeth gnashing in fury. Exhausted, I waved my hand warily. I'm tired, it's time to rest. You're not infants who can't survive without their mother's milk. They both froze. One, eyes reddened, protested bitterly. Did mother do this deliberately? Because I didn't risk my life to save you when you drowned, you deliberately mock me? If I truly wasn't her biological child, my mother would never have let me suffer such injustice. The other declared indignantly, today you stand by while my sister and I face hardship. Don't blame us for disrespecting you when we hold power in the Marquis household. Only the weak vent their rage with threats. But I, confident in my plans, merely curved my lips. Smack! With all my strength, I struck them several times with the ruler, sending them scurrying away, heads bowed in shame, fleeing my courtyard in utter disarray. Without my shielding charge and Song Nanny's meticulous double-dealing, their hopes were utterly dashed. No longer able to feign indifference or feign brotherly affection, they began their counterattack and revenge. Li Qingru, enamored with the eldest son of the Duke's mansion, fearing Li Wanyu might beat her to it. To win the favor of the Marquis matriarch, she staged a chance encounter at a tea house. Armed with a priceless elixir gifted by her maternal grandmother, she displayed her absurd devotion before the old lady. In her past life, the matriarch had never approved of her aloof demeanor. After my recovery, I personally visited wearing the headband, falsely claiming Li Qingru had fallen gravely ill, torn between filial duty and righteousness. Additionally, I had once shown the matriarch a small favor, so she turned a blind eye and never interfered with Li Qingru and Shen Lang's marriage. But now, gazing at the elixir in the brocade box, the matriarch offered a mocking smile that didn't reach her eyes. Is this the one and only health-preserving pill? Li Qingru's eyes lit up. The only one in the capital, it's Qingru's heartfelt gift. The old lady snorted lightly and raised her voice. Your mother endured hardship to raise you for 15 years. Now she's so ill she can barely get out of bed. Instead of bringing these health pills to her bedside to show filial piety, you come to this old woman to show your devotion. Neglecting the near to seek the far, whether you're expressing filial piety or selfishness. I'm afraid only you know best. Li Qingru's face turned as white as paper in an instant, speechless. The tea house was filled with distinguished guests, each listening intently to every word. Someone couldn't help but snort with laughter. Really, to climb higher, she's willing to throw away her dignity. Instead of honoring her gravely ill mother with this precious gift, she uses it to curry favor with the Duke's mansion, a family she's not even remotely related to. What do you know? Not being biologically related, she'll never truly feel at home here. A son publicly shaming his own mother for being greedy and quarrelsome. A daughter refusing to help her mother in her hour of need. What a day for the stepmother. Left standing alone by the old lady, Li Qingru was berated and mocked until she felt utterly disgraced, retreating dejectedly back to the Marquis' residence. But Li Wanyu blocked her at the gate. using the tea house incident to humiliate her mercilessly. Driven mad by rage, Li Qingru clutched the outdated dress sent by Auntie Song and ambushed Li Xiao on his way home, tears streaming down her face as she wailed, "Auntie must have made a mistake. How could I possibly wear this antiquated style to the flower viewing banquet? It would only bring shame upon the Marquis household. How I envy second sister. With mother's planning, she excels in everything. Even her dresses are priceless shoe brocade." She thought she was throwing shade at Li Xiao, but unexpectedly, Li Xiao's eyes turned icy cold as he stepped toward her. Just as hope flickered in her eyes, he swept her tray aside with a flick of his wrist. A sharp slap sent her crashing to the floor, followed by his furious rebuke. Is this not enough humiliation? The incident at the tea house is common knowledge. The reputation of this Marquis household is ruined because of you. Instead of scheming over dresses, learn from your sister what it means to be gentle, considerate, and filial. Since you're so desperate to marry that you'll sacrifice your dignity, I'll arrange your marriage to a distant relative of your maternal grandmother's family, a scholar, who's about to take the imperial exams. Li Xiao swept his sleeves and stormed out. Li Qingru was so shocked she could barely stand. She rushed to Li Jinzi's courtyard seeking help. The man she was meant to marry had always been a nobleman from a distinguished family, pure as the moonlight. She wouldn't even glance at that poor scholar from a humble background. But as soon as she arrived at the courtyard, she stumbled upon Li Jinzi, beaten and severely injured, being carried back to the estate. It turned out Li Jinzi had followed Li Shenzi's example, spending a fortune to buy poems outside, aiming to win fame at the poetry gathering in the tea house. Little did he know, the scholar was insatiable, selling the same poem to 3 people. All 3 were in the tea house, colliding head-on with the identical poem. In their mutual bickering, each insisted it was their original work. The dispute escalated a full-blown brawl, ending up in court where the truth finally came to light. The 3 deceitful scholars were disgraced, flogged, and thrown out. Li Jinzi, once known for his brotherly kindness and indifference to fame, was now utterly ruined. The sister and brother were struck in the face and head by the furious teacup hurled by Li Xiao. Amidst Auntie Song's triumphant laughter, they finally understood today's events were nothing but a trap she had meticulously crafted for them. Completely disowned by Li Xiao, the fortunes and prestige of the Hu mansion now fell entirely into the hands of her own children. They didn't blame themselves for being as dumb as pigs, but they hated me for standing by and doing nothing, letting them end up like this. They actually ran off to the Li family to make false accusations. The legitimate mother finally came knocking, berating me with the air of a mistress of the house. I granted you the nobility of the Gao family precisely to protect my daughter's children. You have betrayed that trust. What do you hope to achieve? Holding my teacup, I gave her a faint glance. Hu Ma then presented the written agreement I had signed upon entering the Marquis household, outlining the 3 conditions set with the Zhao family. First, by bearing the children for my elder sister after being given the red flower, I would repay the Zhao family's kindness in raising me. From that day forward, all ties of affection would be severed. Second, should the Zhao family interfere with my upbringing of the children, they would be the first to breach the agreement, and the bond between mother and child could be cut cleanly. Third, should the children prove unfilial or disobedient, I could unilaterally abandon their upkeep. Every word and clause was signed and sealed by her when she was rushing to push me into the fire pit. Nanny Song was strangled to death by her, but Nanny Song's family still lived. The confession bought with 1,000 taels of silver lies beneath the contract, proving Lady Zhao's years of incitement against my children. She resented fate's injustice for taking her daughter renowned throughout the capital so young. She hated my mother, whom my father cherished his entire life, and thus hated me too. She resented my good fortune, how I, clearly inferior in every way, lived so long. So she extended her hatred passing it down to that brother and sister. I glanced sideways at her pallid face and said coldly, "It is your own incompetence and resentment that has burdened these women with your bitterness and indignation, harming the very ones you sought to protect. If you possessed any real power, you could have directed your hatred toward your heartless, ungrateful father." Madame Zhao abruptly sprang to her feet, pointing her finger at my nose and shouting, "What wrong have I done? Your mother outlived me, and your longevity outlived my daughter. Must my daughter's children now revere and love you, treating you as their own mother? You and the Zhao family are in the same boat as my two grandsons. If Jin loses his position as crown prince, that lowly concubine will make you the first to suffer. It wasn't me begging you, it was you begging my two grandsons to stand by you. Since you wish to sever all ties, I'll see what fate awaits one without maternal kin to rely on, without children to protect them." With that, she strode off. But she was wrong. There were other options for the position of heir, and her precious grandchildren, ever since their rebirth, had only one predetermined fate. Having managed the household for years, Lady Zhao was naturally adept at the intrigues of the inner courtyard. She summoned her two children to spend an entire day at the Zhao residence. When they returned, not a trace of dejection remained. The pair proactively approached Li Xiao to grovel and admit their faults, then feigned friendship with their younger siblings. Everyone believed they had truly reformed, but they had been lying in wait, biding their time, waiting for the old lady's birthday banquet. It wasn't until Auntie Song, her back held high with pride, took charge of the banquet preparations like a true mistress of the house, moving swiftly without a moment's pause. Only then did the two exchange a silent glance behind the scenes, their lips curling into chilling smiles that sent shivers down the spine. After 3 rounds of wine, the dissolute prince stumbled out from the rear courtyard, his robes askew. With a satisfied expression, he held aloft a crimson belly band and declared to Li Xiao, "Your household made smooth-skinned, supple, and quite adept at the ways of the world. She knows how to throw herself at me, yet also how to play hard to get. She's truly whetted this prince's appetite. She was but one step away from becoming mine. By deliberately leaving this behind, she surely intended for me to carry her out of the Marquis's residence, securing a proper claim. I humbly request the Marquis's generosity in parting with her, thus fulfilling this prince's desire for beauty." The guests were unmoved by the Prince of Qi's amorous escapades. Though they despised his dissolute ways, fear of imperial authority silenced their anger. Even Li Xiao dared not lightly offend the Empress Dowager's youngest son. Gritting his teeth in disgust, he waved his hand. "She's merely a maid. Since your highness favors her, this marquis shall grant your wish. But I wonder which young lady crafted this." But when the crimson belly band was revealed, Li Xiao's smile vanished. Embroidered upon it was Li Wanyu's maiden name. Li Qingru covered her mouth and cried out, "It's second sister." Just then, Li Wanyu emerged from the rear courtyard, rubbing her throbbing temples. Her robes were disheveled, her jet black hair in disarray. Prince Qi's eyes lit up. "It's her. I bit her earrings." With the very item she wore close to her skin now held up for identification, Li Wanyu's reputation, whether she was innocent or not, was utterly ruined. Li Wanyu paled in horror. Song Liuter's expression shattered completely as she cried out, "Impossible! It wasn't Yuer. She was drunk and merely returned to her own courtyard. How could she, a lowly concubine mistress, just because she held the household reins for a few days, she actually thinks she's the mistress of the house? Could this prince possibly mistake one person for another?" Li Qingru's lips curved in a smile as she feigned alarm and urged, "With matters having reached this point, rather than letting second sister's future be utterly ruined and forcing her into a nunnery, it would be better for your highness to spare her the shame, for the sake of the Hu family's reputation, and grant second sister a respectable status." Prince Qi seemed to agree wholeheartedly, but Li Wanyu suddenly broke down, screaming that she'd rather die than marry that good-for-nothing. Her words enraged Prince Chi. He refused to relent, insisting on bringing Li Wanyu into the mansion. With a fling of his sleeve, he tossed out, "The Marquis can handle it," and strode off. Li Shao rubbed his temples, utterly weary as his favored concubine Song Lianer gazed at him hopefully. Once your reputation is ruined, even if she avoids the prince's residence, who would still want her? After all, he is royal kin. This will greatly benefit Yu Shen's future prospects. Upon hearing this, Song Lianer's eyes rolled back, and she fainted. In my past life, she cornered me at every turn, choked my throat time and again, nearly plunging me into eternal ruin. This lifetime, I shall stand by and watch her ruin. When Hu Nanny told me this while holding a tea bowl, I stroked the cold, mocking face in the bronze mirror and said, "The show has only just begun." Within days, a scholar came knocking on the palace gates, accusing Li Shen of stealing his poetry to gain fame and dishonoring scholars, demanding severe punishment. Not only did the scholar present the draft he'd given his mentor half a year ago to the imperial court, but he also brought his mentor and all his fellow disciples to testify on his behalf. Li Shen, who had argued fiercely and relied on the power of the Marquis' mansion, was ultimately defeated by the scholar's united assault. He dared not admit he'd been tricked by the seller. Gritting his teeth, he claimed to have overheard the poem somewhere, memorized it instantly, and mistakenly regarded it as his own masterpiece. In the end, convicted of stealing another's work and corrupting scholarly integrity, he received 30 lashes as a warning. When carried back to the Marquis' residence, his flesh was torn and bloody. Upon regaining consciousness, Song Lianer collapsed upon hearing the news. The scholar's mentor was none other than Lady Zhao's maternal cousin. When I deliberately leaked this information into the Marquis' residence, Lady Song learned that both her cherished children had fallen victim to the Zhao family's schemes. The woman who had climbed into Prince Qi's bed was originally a maid sent by Lady Zhao to serve Li Qingru. Born in a brothel, she had disguised herself as Li Wanyu, using her seductive arts to entangle Prince Qi in an irresistible desire. Yet in the darkness, she deliberately fled in panic, leaving behind Li Wanyu's undershirt. Now the mansion was in utter chaos, and that maid had long slipped out through the back gate under cover of night. Even if Song Lianer seethed with hatred until she spat blood, she could do nothing to reverse the situation. Consumed by rage, she could never accept this outcome. On the day Li Wanyu was sent to Prince Qi's residence, the old madam had gifted everyone in the household a bowl of glutinous rice balls, symbolizing completeness. Li Qingru, triumphant, naturally accepted without hesitation. Yet before the smugness could fade from her face, after swallowing a bowl of the rice balls, she clutched her stomach and writhed on the floor. The doctor rushed in, only to declare regretfully, "This concoction is deadly poison. The young lady will likely never bear children." Li Wanyu's maid leapt into the well, taking full blame. She left a letter, accusing Li Qingru of ruthless scheming that ruined her mistress. Unable to watch the villain climb higher by trampling her mistress's flesh, she chose death to destroy Li Qingru's path to power. Her ruined health sealed her fate. She could never become the mistress of a noble household. Coincidentally, the mourning period for the late lady of the Zhongqin Marquis' residence had just ended after 3 years. The Earl's widow had left behind 2 children before passing, becoming the Earl's deepest sorrow. Song Lianer urged the old lady to arrange a marriage for her granddaughter. Presenting Li Qingru's birth chart, she praised Li Qingru's gentle nature, likening her to a chrysanthemum. Noting that she too had lost her mother in childhood and understood the plight of young orphans, Li Qingru, having suffered physical harm and being unable to bear children herself, would surely treat the 2 orphans with kindness. The Earl's household rejoiced, and within days, betrothal gifts were sent to the Marquis' residence. I did not step forward to refuse, so it was deemed accepted. My mother-in-law was overjoyed, praising me for having discernment after all. But she did not know. The news from the Earl's residence had been delivered to Song Lianer through my connections. The Earl's wife was fierce and ruthless, while the Earl himself was famously devoted to his mother and children. What awaited Li Qingru was a fiery pit of eternal torment. Li Qingru wept her heart out, but Li Jinzi urged her. Marrying into a high-ranking family might not be such a bad thing. Your brother-in-law is the Earl. His position as heir apparent is as certain as anything. Ignoring Li Qingru's shock and bewilderment, he mounted his steed to deliver the news to the Zhao family. When he returned home drunk as a skunk, his horse went wild. He was dragged off a stone bridge, his legs shattered in the fall. Overnight, this brother and sister were utterly ruined. Song Lianer curled her lips and said, "If you destroy my children, you cannot blame me for taking your lives." She believed her plan was flawless. But after pouring out bowl after bowl of the poison broth she sent, stopped pretending to be sickly. I turned and delivered the evidence of her coercing maidservants and bribing the coachman to the Zhao household. The moment Lady Zhao's summons gong sounded, the entire capital knew. The Marquis favored his concubine over his wife, allowing her to destroy his legitimate children. Lady Zhao wept bitterly, seeking justice, a sight that moved even me. When Song Lianer was arrested by the authorities with irrefutable evidence, her face still wore utter bewilderment. She had prepared a scapegoat, her scheme flawless, so why was she still caught? Because from the day I relinquished control of the household, I sat back as they fought like clams, reaping the fisherman's profit. Li Xiao finally entered my courtyard, just as he was about to force me to shamelessly beg my family for the concubine's mercy. Old nurse who knelt before him with a thud, tears streaming down her aged face as she pleaded, "Your lordship, please save the mistress." Amidst Li Xiao's bewilderment, she cradled the bronze mirror, spread her legs wide, and poured out a bowl filled to the brim with dense, pitch-black liquid. Through her tears, she uttered each word clearly. The bronze mirror hides a deadly poison. It has been by the mistress's bedside every day, causing her health to deteriorate. I beg your lordship to vindicate the mistress. Such poison I endured until today to reveal it, so that Song Lianer might meet her end in one blow. Li Xiao's face drained of color. He staggered several steps before murmuring to himself, "My cousin was always headstrong and straightforward since childhood. How could she harbor such malicious intent?" I spoke weakly. This mirror was taken from the old lady's storeroom. It had been by my elder sister's bedside while she was still alive. The poison, left for years, still keeps me bedridden. My elder sister's death in childbirth may well be connected to it. Back then, the Marquis clearly cherished her too. Why couldn't they have lived out their days together in mutual respect? Li Xiao's hand trembled as he held his teacup, summoned the physician to investigate. The examination revealed a potent poison, specifically designed to sap a woman's vitality. My elder sister's death in childbirth was undoubtedly linked to it. I seized the opportunity to request the physician examine and prescribe medicine for everyone in the courtyard to eliminate any lingering concerns. After each person left with their prescription, I turned to Li Xiao. "Your Grace, it's your turn." Li Xiao looked displeased, but extended his hand nonetheless. The physician examined it and gasped in horror. "Your lordship, you've been poisoned with a Baroness potion. As it hasn't been 3 months, the effects haven't manifested yet." Li Xiao staggered, shattering the teacup beside him. His face drained of color. "Not 3 months? I'd relinquished the steward's authority barely 3 months ago." For these 3 months, he had spent most of his time living and eating in Song Lianer's courtyard. Li Xiao felt as if struck senseless by a blow to the head. She's far too impatient. I merely hinted at the idea of appointing Shen as crown prince, and she strikes me with such a poisonous hand. To betray childhood affection like this, she truly is a venomous woman. Nanny Song's eyes brimmed with tears. The mistress is bedridden. How could she harm the concubine? Besides, she's no fool. Why would she commit murder in her own courtyard, trapping herself? It's simply that no one believes her. No one stands by her. Li Xiao's pupils contracted sharply as understanding dawned. Justice will be served, he declared before striding away. He failed to notice Consort Zhu standing with hands clasped outside the door. That concubine Zhu had once been a maid tending to ink and brushes in his study. During his quarrel with Song Lianer, he had forcibly taken her body, resulting in the birth of Li Yanzi. That child was now 4 years old. Yet, because Li Xiao disliked him, and Song Lianer deliberately targeted him, even his own courtyard had been seized. In my past life, this mother and son had my protection. They eventually passed the imperial examinations, requested to serve in the south, and lived out their days peacefully with their mother. In this life, on the day I fell into the water, when Lady Zhu brought the child to see me, I asked, "Do you want the position of heir to this marquisate and all its splendor and glory?" She knelt before me with a thud, nearly cracking her head on the ground. I helped her up and comforted her. I have no son of my own. I need a good child. In my past life, it was Yanzi who erected a memorial for me, burned offerings in my honor, and sought high monks to guide my spirit. He remembered my care, remembered the tutors I arranged for him, remembered that I never favored one over the other or mistreated him. He was a good child who knew gratitude. Madame Zhu struggled to survive in the cracks of life, enduring such hardship. A mother can endure suffering herself, but she cannot bear to see her child suffer. So she agreed. As before, she remained unnoticed, quietly retreating into the background. Only when Li Xiao grew weary would she bring him a bowl of tea. When Li Xiao flew into a rage over his worthless children, she would bring him a bowl of soup. Bit by bit, time and again, she slipped the infertility potion into Li Xiao's bowl. Until today, it became the blade that killed concubine Song. Without Li Xiao's frantic efforts to save her, Song Lianer was sentenced to exile after being beaten with 50 strokes that crippled her leg. In my past life, at 50, the poison hidden in Song Lianer's bronze mirror drained my body. I fell gravely ill, my days numbered. 2 lifetimes of enmity separated us. I should have slain her with my own hands to quench my hatred, but upon reflection, I decided against it. A single fatal blow could never match the agony of exile to Ninguda enduring bitter winds and snow, living each day in fear of death, of fate worse than death itself. For the next 30 years, she clung to resentment yet remained bound by lingering attachments. She held on by a thread, waiting for the day to come. But when her strength finally waned, disappointment turned to despair, and no one remained to bring her back to the capital to enjoy wealth and honor. The old lady of the Hu mansion, upon hearing the tragic news, coughed up blood and fainted. Her 2 children knelt outside the study, pleading desperately. Li Xiao, unable to express his anguish, flew into a rage. With 1 kick each, he sent his unfilial offspring tumbling. He bellowed at them to get out. Of his 2 sons, one had already become a cripple. The other, born to concubine Song, would never earn Li Xiao's favor. Thus, he had no other choice. Finally, he stepped into my courtyard. He brought Yanzi before me. This child is mild-mannered yet intelligent. Save for his lowly mother, he is no less than his 2 elder brothers. I wish to raise him under your care. I responded as I had agreed with Consort Zhu. Then your lordship must agree to 3 conditions. First, you may not interfere with the child's upbringing. Second, to prevent estrangement, his mother shall reside in my courtyard to care for him. Third, in public, you must accord him and me the respect due. Li Xiao hadn't expected my immediate consent. Naturally, he had no choice but to agree. From that day onward, I had a child of my own choosing at my side. It wasn't until the day of the ancestral hall inauguration and the updating of the family registry, when Yanzi was formally recorded under my name, That Lady Zhao realized her elaborate scheme had merely paved the way for my success. She stormed in, intent on a bitter showdown. But when I pushed the crippled Li Jinzi out onto the veranda, she immediately backed down. He would live under my care. If Lady Zhao offended me, she would be pushing her beloved grandson into the underworld. Li Jinzi, knowing he had no claim to the heir's position, kept himself quietly confined within the courtyard. But Li Shenji's treacherous heart remained undying. He projected all of Li Xiao's aversion and disgust toward him onto Yunzi. He went so far as to poison Yunzi's pastries, determined to eliminate every obstacle beneath his feet. When Aunt Zhu, pale as death, held out the pastries to me, I curved my lips and crouched down to tell Yunzi, "Though grandmother dislikes you now, she will surely be moved by your devotion in time. Take these pastries to her, let them be a token of your filial piety." Yunzi was wise. He took the pastries and went straight to his grandmother's courtyard. That night, Lady Who died from poisoning. Li Shenzi, who had administered the poison, was identified by the servants one by one. Yunzi was just a child. He was merely showing filial piety to his grandmother. What wrong could he possibly have done? Li Xiao, consumed by shame and rage, vented all his hatred upon Li Shenzi. After a beating with the family discipline rod, Li Shenzi developed a high fever and died in his sleep, his mind clouded and confused. The next day, Li Wanyu returned to the mansion, weeping to see her elder brother one last time. Unexpectedly, she encountered Li Jinzi, who wore no mask over his delight at the situation. The two argued fiercely until Li Wanyu, enraged, pushed him into the lake. By the time he was pulled out, he was barely clinging to life. Upon receiving the sudden tragic news, compounded by days of exhaustion and worry, Li Xiao coughed up blood and collapsed, never to rise again. He was confined to his sick. As the mistress of the house, I naturally shouldered all responsibilities of the marquisate. I saw Li Qingru off to the earl's residence with all due propriety. Rumor had it that the two children were spoiled, unruly, and arrogant, tormenting the household servants until they were utterly miserable. Needless to say, they resented the stepmother who suddenly replaced their mother. Li Qingru constantly accused me of feigned affection, claiming I only kept her alive to secure wealth and status. I gave her that wealth. Let's see how much of her false kindness can buy that brother and sister. Yet within days, news spread that the earl's new wife had abused her stepchildren. The old lady of the house punished her with a disciplinary rod and confined her to the inner courtyard. Disliked by her mother-in-law, unloved by her husband, viewed as a thorn in the side by her stepchildren, the world despised her as morally corrupt, unworthy of being human. She, who fancied herself a noble lady, found her plight far worse than mine in my previous life. Those years of slow, agonizing torment were her retribution for trampling my heart in her past existence. After accidentally drowning Li Jin, Li Wanyu fell gravely ill from the shock. In her delirium, a maid she had tormented knocked over an oil lamp, engulfing her in flames. When I delivered the news to Li Jinzi, so he could die with peace in his heart, he suddenly shed to hot tears, clutching my sleeve and refusing to let go. Our eyes met, and he choked until his voice broke. "Mother, I had a dream. In that dream, you weren't like this. You planned everything for me, fought for everything on my behalf. You crushed my stepmother and her son, securing the position of crown prince for me. Mother, this was never how my life was meant to end. Why? Why did you suddenly change so drastically? Why did you stand by and watch my suffering? If Li Wanyu hadn't heard that I harmed her elder brother, why would she attack me, a half-dead man? It was you, Mother, wasn't it? You deliberately led her over here, didn't you? I am the son you raised with your own hands. Mother, why would you harm me?" I pried his fingers from my hem one by one. Then, looking down at his stunned face, I said slowly, deliberately, "But in my dream, it was you who personally forced the poison down my throat. At those words, his pupils dilated wildly. So you knew all along. Mother, in the end, I was the one who erred, betraying your nurturing kindness. If there is a next life, I truly wish to be born from your womb, like my third brother, to receive your wholehearted devotion and protection. He slowly closed his eyes, but I laughed softly. Yet I would never want someone like you as my son. The cold night fell. The child I raised single-handedly breathed his last. The Marquis lay languishing in bed. Madame Ju tended to him day and night. I watched helplessly as he wasted away. I watched helplessly as his illness reached its final stage. Until, finally, he had no strength left even to open his mouth. Only then did I sit beside him, cradling a teacup, and say, after my elder sister died, if you hadn't feared Consort Song would be mistreated and proposed to the Zhao family that this easily manipulated concubine entered the mansion as a secondary wife, I wouldn't have been forced to drink the red flower potion, thrust into the Marquis' residence, and have my life ruined. I hate you to the core. That's why I must take everything from you, make you die by my hand, and condemn you to eternal damnation. In my past life, I succeeded, but in this life, I've done even better. I forced the last bowl of medicine down his throat. I comforted him. Rest easy on your journey. Your children, I've sent them all to the underworld. They're waiting for you. Now, the young master lives under my care. He knows gratitude and will be dutiful. My future, adorned with gold and jade, won't trouble you any more. After Li Xiao drew his last breath, Li Qingru lost all hope. Filled with bitter resentment, she rushed to the Zhao household, pleading with Lady Zhao to rescue her from this hell. But she was merely a wife of an official. What power did she hold to influence the Earl's household's marriage arrangements? Li Qingru then recalled Lady Zhao's scheming, how she had driven a wedge between her and her daughter, ultimately trapping her in a prison worse than death. Hatred boiled within her. She drew her hairpin and drove it viciously into Lady Zhao's throat. Then, pin after pin, in a frenzied outburst, she stabbed Lady Zhao until flesh and blood mingled in a gruesome blur. Her face drenched in blood, she screamed, "Had you not sown discord, my brother and I would have cherished her as our own mother. She loved me more than life itself, willing to drown herself to protect me. How could she ever sacrifice my future and fortune? It's you. It's you. I hate you." Her hairpins flew with vicious force. The servants couldn't drag her away. In desperation, a servant struck her on the back of the head with a club. Blood slowly seeped out. Li Qingru and I, standing behind the crowd, exchanged a distant glance, our expressions complex. Her eyes filled with regret as she collapsed to the ground, dying with her eyes wide open. My greedy, lecherous father, I also saddled him with a concubine who was a prostitute. After a bowl of medicine, he collapsed and died beneath the red canopy, rotting away the rest of his life. That was their end. And me. I secured my place in the Marquis' mansion, living in luxury and privilege. Zhu concubine and I stood by each other, free from worry. Years later, my son passed the imperial examinations and petitioned for my title as a noble lady. Zhu concubine wept beside me, moved, "Madam, you deserve every bit of this." I held wealth and honor in my hands, my glory unmatched. I had no regrets. The end.